And we are live. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I am one of your co-hosts, Blake Ruffino. Alongside me is my counterpart and co-host, Joe DeLeone. Good evening, good sir. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic, Blake. It never fails. Every single time the losers, the casuals try to say, oh, the slate of games, it's not very good. It's not very fun. Wrong. This was insane, the weekend that we had happen to us, Blake. A bunch of games that nobody was expecting. We didn't even talk about UCLA, Penn State. We didn't even really go that deep on Florida, Texas. And lo and behold, everything has changed. And a bunch of teams are now no longer ranked that were top teams in the preseason.
Yeah, to your point, Texas, the number one team coming into the season, is now unranked after losing to Florida. Penn State, which is probably worse than what happened to Texas, because Texas is still, I think, a really good team, especially on defense. They go into a winless UCLA and get absolutely destroyed defensively. Destroyed. And got to be real with you, Joe, the Nico Iamaleava that everybody thought that they were going to get the day that he signed to go to Tennessee is exactly the Nico Iamaleava that he was yesterday. Bottom line. Now, you can say that he wasn't throwing the ball great. Joey had 6 drops, 4 of them coming in the second half. That is the Nico that everybody expected, and Penn State got clipped for it. By the way, we got to talk about A&M. Just newsflash, everybody. They keep steamrolling everybody. So as these weeks, guys, we're halfway through the season. Joe, we're halfway through the season, bud. And we're sitting here. By the way, Texas is out of the playoff. They're going to be out of the playoff. Penn State's going to be out of the playoff. And now you got a lot of these eliminators that are out there. Notre Dame, just sitting there. Oh, we're playing Boise State. No big deal. But you got losses by 1 point and by a field goal to 2 top 5 teams in the nation. So for whatever it's worth to the Fighting Irish, and listen, I don't like coming out here spreading me and your private conversations. You and I had a private conversation last week about listen, Notre Dame wins out. I mean, you can make the argument losing by 4 to 5 points by 2 top 5 teams, and you're in the playoff, buddy.
Well, so that's a very interesting point to bring up. Notre Dame wasn't even in the docket for us to talk about, or for, I think, any national show even brought them up. But let's take a quick second to acknowledge that they might be the biggest winners from week 6, because Miami wins. It was a very confident win at first, and then Florida State came back, so it looked a little closer. But still, they win again. Texas A&M wins very confidently against Mississippi State, so both those losses look fine. But on top of this, part of what I talked about after the Texas A&M loss for what was going to make it really difficult for Notre Dame to be in the playoff conversation is I didn't know how a lot of these other programs that had 2 or 3 losses by the end of the year were going to get viewed in conversation with Notre Dame. Well, right now, 2 teams that would have been in that discussion were Penn State and Texas. And even if they both finish, even if they both finish unscathed the rest of the year, the losses that they suffered yesterday, I would argue, completely taint their resumes to the point where there would be a legitimate argument for Notre Dame to get in over them.
This isn't going to happen, but Texas would have to win out and demolish A&M, which they're not going to do. Yeah. And I don't think I think Penn State's got 2 more losses, and we'll talk about this James Franklin thing in just a moment. By the way, another game that we're going to talk about, Joe, is Ty Simpson the Heisman favorite right now? Because he sure as hell looks like it.
Damn right he is. I mean, him and Dante Moore are right now running side by side for the Heisman in my eyes. And the thing is, the only thing that impacts this is that no other real big name premier players who have been loosely in the conversation have had as many signature games so far this year. But I think we still have to keep talking about Dante Moore and Ty Simpson as the first 2 players, which currently on FanDuel, it's actually Carson Beck plus 600, Dante Moore plus 600, and then Ty Simpson at plus 750. Might be some really nice value for our listeners if they're paying attention and they want to grab onto that Ty Simpson plus 750 before that ends up changing.
I think all 3 of them are playing great. Miami rolls. Carson Beck at one point had 3 touchdowns and 1 incompletion. I mean, You got Dante Moore doing what he's doing. He's got a big this week coming up against Indiana. And, well, the Tide keep on rolling with Ty Simpson. And I saw your tweet the other day, and I'm going to bring it up when we get to that segment. How do you contextualize the Florida State loss? You know how you can contextualize it? On the road, week 1 with a new quarterback, new offense, and new coordinator. That's how you contextualize it. It was the first time they were together. So they continue to roll. Oh, and by the way, the second quarterback that ran their mouth against Alabama got humbled. And I just got to say this to Diego Pavia, with all due respect, and to the children watching, this is what happens when you run your mouth. And then when fans start chirping at you and you start trying to and you start getting fighting mad, you can't do that. You can't go out there running your mouth and then get mad when someone chirps back.
Wait. By the way, I was so really perplexed by this. That one interaction that you're referring to, a Vanderbilt coach starts yelling at the guy saying, "You're yelling at kids," or something like that. Diego Pavia is 24. He's a. I just don't get this. You can't talk to him like that. He's 24. He's a grown man. He's responsible for his own actions. Diego doesn't have to respond. People shit talk us all the time. I don't respond to it. And guess what? I'm only a couple years older than Diego. That's how old he is.
Joe, we have 25 comments before the live button got hit of people clowning me. Did we? We don't. We have cordial conversations, but we're not going to fight back to you. Not to that level. And here's the thing, Joe, these kids are getting paid millions. Diego Pavia has bragged all offseason about being a 7-figure quarterback.
Yeah.
Newsflash to everybody around college football. This isn't your grandma's college football. This isn't my grandma Jules' college football, okay? This is a new age of how things work. So, with all due respect, you can't get mad when you chirp all offseason, "We're a championship-level team." Well, you turned the ball over twice. You should have had 3 picks. You should have turned it over 4 times. You got bailed out. But in all retrospect, we will talk about that game. And, oh, by the way, to all the Miami fans, I had you at number 3. You think I hate you. I don't.
Sorry. This is partially my doing. I set you up for this. Although Oregon fans were mad at me, and I've been a big Oregon supporter.
So Oregon fans, I need you to rally. By the way, that segment's got 1,000 comments now. Regardless of that, Oregon and Miami fans fighting over the bowl of Mario Cristobal is the funniest thing ever. And the two fan bases are fighting. Both had Mario Cristobal at one time as a head coach. This is why you love the sport. This is why you love it. But we'll get to that as well. All right. Everybody do us a favor. Hit the like and share. Share to all those groups. If you're on Facebook, to the new Ruffino and Joe Facebook page. Go over there, like it. Hit the follow button. Hit the share button on all the stuff, too. If you're on YouTube, like, subscribe, notification bell. And if you're listening to us on audio podcast, rate, review, and subscribe. Every Ruffino and Joe show is brought to you by our good friends over at FanDuel. Joe just mentioned some odds on the Heisman favorites. You can go over there and place that. You got the disposable income. We highly suggest you go have fun with us over with our good friends over at FanDuel. If you have any thoughts, questions, or concerns, don't really know what you're doing, go over to FanDuel.com/RG for more details, and they will be able to guide you and assist you in all of those things. Again, every Ruffino and Joe show is brought to you by our good friends over at FanDuel. Joe, we got a couple of super chats here before we get rolling. Marshall Childs, a member on the YouTube channel and the Discord, with a $5 super chat, says Alabama and A&M on a collision course for the SEC championship game, ? Listen,
at the current moment, yes.
Not yet. Not with A&M, not yet. Let me tell you why. A&M in the month of October. Okay, they'll have a bye week in here. They have 3 road games, 2 coming against ranked opponents at night.
Okay. Yeah.
So Georgia, on the other hand, those games are at home. They got don't they? I think they have Florida coming up in the cocktail party. Not maybe this upcoming week. Maybe I don't remember when it is.
It's not this week. I think it's the following week.
Next. Okay, they have that. Listen, I'm not ready to do that to Georgia because again, outside of LSU, the only teams to have really even played for the SEC title are Bama, Georgia, and LSU.
So the reason why I said as of right now, though, is for that reason, is that I think that Georgia is still lurking. Georgia's going to bounce back. We said this after they lost to Alabama. The Georgia fans kind of disappeared for a week, which was a little sad that they kind of bailed out on listening to stuff when we did our Kentucky preview. But they bounce back. They're going to bounce back, and I wouldn't just completely count them out.
No, you can't. And can miss it. Can A&M, for everything that it's worth, the month of October is a massive month for them, and we'll see what they're able to do. Dick Buck, our good friend, also a member on the YouTube channel, says Julian Sayin in 85.9 QBR, 1,300 passing yards, 13 touchdowns, 10 yards per attempt. Playing great right now. Playing very well.
Yeah, Julian Sayin's been awesome, and I think that is the biggest reason for why Ohio State has not missed a step. And if anything, it's part of here's a little Will Howard shade for you that nobody thought was coming. I think that the offense has a higher ceiling, of course, with Julian Sayin once he starts to really establish his confidence. But if there is a player on the Ohio State team that is in the Heisman ceremony, it's going to be Jeremiah Smith. He's been amazing so far this year. He's got 6 touchdowns. He's got 463 yards. He is on a ridiculous pace. And if we end up seeing him with 1,400 yards, 1,300 yards at the end of the year, and he's got a crazy big game later on their schedule, he could be one of the 2 people that we're deciding between for the Heisman Trophy. But the problem is, I talked about earlier when we were talking about Ty Simpson, he just hasn't had since that first game, which he didn't play great against Texas. They haven't had a really, truly difficult matchup that has been in prime time where everybody was watching it. So then the narrative was being built like we've done with Dante Moore, with Carson Beck, and like we do with Ty Simpson. I
tried to troll this, and I know Elks brought this up in our Discord.
Yeah.
Does Florida doing to Texas change any thoughts that you had on Ohio State?
No, it doesn't.
Oh, go ahead.
Well,
I mean, it's for me, but go ahead.
It does slightly, but it's not. I don't like the minute that a game like that happens where Texas plays poorly, that I have to go and look at their schedule and point at all the teams that they play and go like, well, this changes this changes that. Ohio State looked great. It was both teams' first game of the season, and a lot of the things that happened in the Texas game have remained true. It's not like Ohio State's stumbling right now and they're struggling.
Right.
And that is
completely dismantling Minnesota.
Right. Yeah. I'm not. That doesn't really change anything for me.
I agree, even though I was kind of trolling there. All right, let's get to it here. Everybody do us a favor. Hit the like and share. Every episode's brought to you by our good friends over at FanDuel. If you had that disposable income, go over there and place those bets over on FanDuel. Miami, Florida State. Joe, Miami is able to come out with a win against Florida State on the road. The first time Miami was on the road this year, excuse me. When you go back and you rewatch the game, you break this game down, you recap it, your thoughts on the game?
Blake, I am vindicated. I have been proven, and I said this the last 2 weeks, and I'm standing by it. Miami is the best team in college football. Look, I give Florida State some credit. They scrapped their way back. They tried to get back into this game. Miami realized that they were winning and that they could coast their way in the fourth quarter. They took their foot off the gas. But outside of that, I saw 3 quarters of an ass whooping. And a lot of the things that we talked about in the preview came to fruition. A defensive team that is extremely fundamentally sound, bottled up Castellanos. He only had 57 yards rushing, and they forced him to have multiple turnovers.
40 came in the fourth quarter.
Yeah. He had a bunch of turnovers that this defense capitalized on. And then we watched Carson Beck. When the run game didn't dominate as much as it usually does, he didn't have a running back over 50 yards. As I keep talking about, they're the most balanced team in college football. So when they can't run the ball, Carson Beck takes over. Malachi Toney takes over. CJ Daniels takes over. Last bit before I throw back to you, Blake. Malachi Toney is so freaking good, man.
He's so good.
They had a solid receiving room last year. And the offseason narrative with Miami, Blake, was what do we expect from this offense, losing Restrepo, losing Sammy Brown, losing a lot of the guys that were generating production, Arroyo, that were targets for Cam Ward. you got a true freshman who just turned 18 who's running past everybody. Like this Miami team has everything that I would look for a team that is a legitimate title threat. And I think that even if the game almost slipped away a little bit there at the end, I don't think it should take away from how dominant that they looked for most of it.
So let me just say one thing on Tony that's the most impressive thing about him, and it's not – nobody wants to talk about this with the receivers.
Mm-hmm.
He is one of the most willing blockers at wide receiver, even at his size, that I've ever seen. Joe, he is as scrappy as they come, and to be honest with you, all of them play that way. Now, I challenged C.J. Daniels last week. C.J.'s a guy who last year did not live up to the expectations that he holds his own self to, and he had a massive game. Mm-hmm. But, Joe, great teams, and Miami fans are about to gasp about this, even though I had them in my top 3. Great teams are able to win games in multitudes of ways. Joe, they didn't run the ball worth a shit. And that is the fact. You had 3 yards to carry. It was not to what you're built or what you want to do. I tweeted this to you during the game. I thought both tackles were exceptional in the run game, especially 61 on the right side, as always, everybody wants to point out. I think the left tackle, the 6'9" kid, was moving human beings. Why they didn't keep going to outside zone stuff, that's neither here nor there. Regardless of that, great teams can win shootouts. Great teams can find ways to win in a knife fight. And that's what Miami did on the road for the first time that they had to go on the road this year, and they did it. There was a part in time in the game that Carson Beck, for whatever it's worth, had more touchdowns. You're actually halfway through the game. He had more touchdowns than he did incompletions. He was 10 for 11 for 3, and he had 3 touchdowns. But, Joe, the game was completely won and lost by the decision by Mike Norvell. Now, do I think Miami had complete control of the game the entire time, pretty much until the fourth quarter, like you mentioned, that they started coming back? Yes. The decision by Mike Norvell was one of the dumbest decisions I've ever seen. What am I talking about? You go for it on 4th and 8 on the 41-yard line when you could pin Miami deep and get them and play field position and potentially try to get – and you know what Miami's going to do. What is a Mario Cristobal-led team, when you're holding them to 3 yards of carry, going to do? If you get them pinned back, they're going to run the football. And so you could play some field position. The interception by Castellanos on the 4th and 8 in the first half, then when you go under center, play action, Tony on a deep drag or deep over for a touchdown, the 44-yard bomb, Joe, I got to be real with you, it was ball game. Ball game. I thought that both teams were really throwing some haymakers early and doing a lot of really good things. But I felt as if after that, the Miami team completely, not that they didn't have momentum, they took over the momentum, and it felt over. Now, again, we talk about Florida State being very scrappy, going on a 96-yard drive in the fourth quarter, 19 plays, and being able to get in another touchdown that would have got the onside kick to be able to win. I get all of that, like you mentioned as well. But you brought up the point about the completeness of Miami is what you're trying to say here. Mm-hmm. Are they the most complete team in the country? It would seem that way because they can beat you in so many different ways. But, Joe, here's the thing for me, and we want to point on how they lean on you offensively. Mario's best friend is the only person he gives access to along his offensive line. We can talk about all these different storylines about how they do things. The way this team generates turnovers is vintage Miami. The secondary with Poyser and company forcing these turnovers. Joe, I don't know if their edge unit can be blocked. Not by anybody in college football right now. They have the best edge room in the country, and it is not close. You may be on to something. They might be the most complete team. Now, you get into the game, and you look at it a little bit more specifically. The 19 points in the fourth quarter, I thought Miami was very scrappy. But I thought the receivers, when every time they needed a big play, you talk about Tony, but C.J. Daniels, for what it's worth, I think you saw the eye black, by the way. The Kyron Lacey situation, I think, was held dear to C.J. Daniels representing, scoring 2 touchdowns. C.J. Daniels had his more P4 coming out party, even though he had the ridiculous catch in week 1 versus Notre Dame. That kid and had some drops, but he really found his own way and did a lot of things that people expected him to do. They just beat you in so many different ways. I thought, for what it's worth, Shannon Dawson I thought Shannon Dawson called almost a perfect game. And what do I mean by that? Not because they scored a crap load of points, but Joe, I just felt like he knew how the game was moving and things were perfect for him and how he did things. Coaching staff was absolutely phenomenal, and the players fed off of that as well.
Well, I think that like one part with that thought in mind, it allowed for us to contrast the two programs and where they currently sit. I think that it's a little interesting when we consider how 2 years ago, the trajectory for Florida State was completely different. If we approached each other 2 years ago and we said, and we told you, we asked you to state which team do you think has the better coaching staff, the better coordinators, is better recruited on their offensive and defensive lines, you might have said Florida State. This is the big part, and this is a little bit more of a Florida State directed point of analysis. Florida State's first win against Alabama was a great win, and it was a great way to start the season. But it is going to take time. As we said this offseason, it takes time to be effectively recruited enough along both lines of scrimmage to rebound from the awful season that you had a year ago. Now, Florida State's improving in high school recruiting. And when we end up doing our National Signing Day show like we always do every single year, I would hope and I think that we're going to be talking more positively about Florida State because they've recognized that they need to be more deliberate in high school recruiting in order to have a more sturdy base.
Right.
But this, to me, Blake, was the difference between two teams that are on completely different levels in the pace of their growth and their development. We saw for this Miami squad that where everything that they have totally leaned into bolstering took over. It goes to Francis Mauigoa, CC Mauigoa, I believe is what his nickname that he goes by, and apologies if I'm mispronouncing. I think it's Maui Noah might be his pronunciation for that. And Ruben Bain were two guys 3 years ago. They were highly recruited kids that stepped in as true freshmen and played early and showed really amazing signs for what they could be. And they stepped on the field and they kicked ass. That is, those two players, I think, really exemplify where this Miami team has taken the step forward that many people thought that they couldn't get to. Sometimes it's easy for us to point at coaches, Blake, who struggle in these big games and who struggle at finishing seasons like Mario Cristobal has. But the thing is that there was evidence for us to have looked at, which was the fact that he was just slowly adding bricks, slowly getting better every single year to this point now where it does feel like they are a legitimate threat. They have a very favorable schedule coming up for this remaining stretch of the season. So the ball is in their court. They are in the fast lane on the highway. There is no reason why they can't finish the rest of the season undefeated.
Well, Joe, to that point, again, you're talking about the cycles of recruiting from Miami from high school and then developing from within and then adding things through the portal to be complete. Joe, their longest run from a running back yesterday or the three main ones, I should say, was Fletcher for 10 yards. He went 12 for 40. Brown went 8 of 19. Lyle 7 of 18. They had rushes of the long of 5 and 6. So you sit there again, and Carson Beck throwing 4 touchdown passes. He's not even doing the things, Joe, that I felt like that we saw him having to press. Now, here's another thing. You went and got him, and I want to talk about Carson Beck in this regard. Joe, last year's Carson Beck without a running game throws 3 picks. He throws.
I don't think it's a bad take to have. He's a completely different player.
Well, and not only that, we literally saw it. What are the 2 games that Georgia lost? Really 3. What are the 3 games that they lost last year? What did they all have in common? Carson Beck having 3 turnovers, throwing 3 turnovers because he had to be the dude and be Superman. He says in preseason, look, I felt like I had to be Superman. I'm just playing with inside the offense. So when I talk about Shannon Dawson calling a perfect game, Joe, almost a third of his completions, or a fifth of his completions actually are touchdowns. Let me say that again. A fifth of Carson Beck's completions are touchdowns. That is insane. So you sit here and you say, look, do I think, and I tweeted this at you in the beginning of the game, and we talked about this during the game. What did Florida State do? Joe, they completely put 7 to 8 men in the box. We tweeted it. Next drive, you got Herbie up there circling that they got 8 guys in the box. They were not allowing Miami to come in there and run the ball on them. They just weren't going to allow it, and you had to be very physical. So they opened things up, and the question mark around Miami and the receivers, it is what it is. Malachi Tony went for 107. C.J. Daniels had 2 touchdowns on 78 yards. But, Joe, you got to throw this. The 2 biggest things that they made themselves complete. We just talked about Carson Beck. This secondary has got dogs. Poyser might be one of the best safeties out of the portal. He was one of the most.
He was every time on the broadcast. You heard every 5 minutes Poyser on the play. Poyser on the play. Yeah.
And so, Joe, there was a reason coming out of Jacksonville State that everybody wanted him. Well, look at last night, because they asked him to do so many different things. Come down in the box and help and contain. Come down in the box and help and run. Then when he did, he forces a fumble. Then he's in great positions to make plays. So not only when you're talking about that completeness and how they dominated yesterday, it from high school recruiting and then going into the portal. Now let me ask you this: what do you make of Florida State now? Now you're 0-2 in the ACC. You're 3-2 on the season, and Joe, I got to be real with you. You got beaten 2 completely different ways. On the road, you got beat by a quarterback running all over the place, and then you stop the run this time, and then Carson Beck just completely dimes you up. I mean, this seems like a little bit just a lack of depth for me defensively.
Well, and that's what my whole point is here, is that this Florida State team is not – it's not bad. It's just not complete, because it is a multi-year – you were so awful last year, it was going to take multiple years to dig yourself out of the rubble. Mm-hmm. They're also like Miami – they have a very favorable schedule down the stretch. Their next 2 most challenging games that they face, Clemson on November 8th, which I would think that they should beat unless Dabo pulls something out of his hat, and they've got Florida on the 29th. Pitt coming up might be a little spicy, but, we don't.
Well, they just benched their starting quarterback.
And that true freshman that they put out there threw for like 350 or something like that. So Florida State can rebound and finish this year with 2 losses, but the realistic thing to expect is that because they've lost the way that they did to UVA and they lost the way that they did in this game, they're probably going to drop a game that they're not supposed to. They're probably going to lose to Clemson or a Virginia Tech or a Wake Forest or an NC. Like, one of those games is just going to completely sneak up on them. Sadly, I think that they've kind of boxed themselves out of the playoff conversation. I don't think that they're going to be as a real playoff threat because of the way that they play.
I got to be real with you, Joe. I know Florida. Stay with me. Yeah. I know Florida's 2-3. There's no way that you can't look at Florida and say that team's not going to give Florida State a hell of a run. I mean,
it depends if Billy's still there. If Billy's gone, do they just
Billy keeps winning? Well, I mean, if Billy keeps winning.
Are we going to do that bit again? Are we going to do it again? Are we going to
Joe, the man turns into Nick Saban when he's about to get fired.
I'll save it till we get to that game. I'll save my thought on that, but it's funny.
Hey, but you know what I'd say right before the season next year? Billy, if you lose the game, you're getting fired. They might go undefeated.
I'm just saying it's become one of the funniest tropes in college football of what if Billy Napier keeps winning and nobody knows what that means anymore. I don't know what it means anymore. It just, he wins games when you think that he's done.
But see, here's the thing. The only thing I'd say, if you get that play from Ball, Lagway, and now you see those 2 freshman receivers, you got to start asking questions. Do you want to blow that up? So we'll talk about when.
Yeah, we talk about that in a couple segments.
Joe, Bama gets their revenge against Vanderbilt. We waited a year to say that. Let's not joke around. But Bama takes on Vanderbilt and comes out with a win. Joe, your thoughts on the game?
All right. I have two key things that I think were massive for this victory. One, credit to Kane Womack. Kane Womack was the biggest reason and the biggest person who was directed blame at last year. First half was not going well. It was close. You had a couple big runs from Alexander. You had a couple nice plays from Pavia. Everybody was holding their breath for a second thinking, oh my God, is this going to happen again? Come out at halftime. Lockdown. Pavia has nowhere to run. He can't improvise. He's turning the ball over. He's taking hits. They did everything that they needed to do in those adjustments that they made at halftime. Credit to Kane Womack. Second, Jam Miller's running like that, and this was supposed to be a pretty solid run defense from Vanderbilt. 136 on 22. Blake, this Alabama offense is getting better every single week, and this is one thing that I think
especially in the run game. Especially in the run game.
This is one thing that I think we as college football fans and us as commentators, we sometimes forget because we react on a week-by-week basis. Teams are allowed to get better. Teams are allowed to improve, and that applies even more than ever in an era when it doesn't matter if you have 2 losses to get into the playoff field. If they're going to be able to bat down on defense like this, which they're not perfect, they still have some issues. If they're able to reignite their running game like this, and if Ty Simpson's dealing the way that he's dealing, Blake, yeah, they deserve to be in the SEC championship conversation. They deserve to be in the top 4. They should be ranked much higher than they are right now on the AP ballot, which I believe they're currently at 8th. Like, this Alabama team is playing to what everybody thought that they could be in the preseason, and credit to Kalen DeBoer and Ryan Grubb and Kane Womack and this whole coaching staff to getting everybody to buy in, because the issues that we talked about in week 1 of missed assignments, not tackling, not giving full effort has not been a problem over the last 2 weeks. And it feels like that was a whole year ago, that bad game that they had against Florida State.
It's a tale of 2 years, and it's a tale of 2 games, really, in literally 6 weeks, to your point. Joe, when Alexander broke off the 65-yard touchdown run, I know every single Alabama fan said to themselves, oh my God, not again. Not again. This can't happen again. Now I'm gonna rip Vandy a new one in just a minute, because I don't care that it's Vandy and they deserve it, because idiotically they did something that was dumb. However, Joe, when everything turned and momentum was never able to be re-seized by Vandy after the Pavia fumble. So if you're Bama, let's talk about what you did to start the game. Ty Simpson on 4th down throws his first interception of the year. You give up the long TD run to Alexander. Then you go down and miss a field goal, and Vandy pushes the ball all the way down to the red zone. Joe, you're saying to yourself as a Bama fan, oh my God, are they really about to do it again? What are we doing? And then all of a sudden, Jefferson comes away with the strip and the fumble recovery. Ball game from that point forward. You talk about a coach early in his tenure. Oh my God, he lost to Florida State. He lost to Oklahoma. What are we doing? But then all of a sudden something clicks. And for something at that moment for this Bama team, for the first time that I remember, we can talk about Georgia, and that's a whole different beast. I felt like they finally started playing complementary football under Kalen DeBoer. And what I mean by that is, after the turnover, well, what did you do? You went for it again on 4th and 7, and Ty Simpson hits a drag route. You would go in and score. You let Vandy get another touchdown right before the half, they wouldn't score again. But what did you do? Joe, the Ty Simpson drive to get the score tied at 14, and some of the throws that he made, I'm sorry to tell, I don't know if everybody's ready for this. That looked to me like the best quarterback at that drive that I'd seen all year. Yeah. I don't know of a better drive that I've seen all year put together better than that one. It doesn't exist in this season. And you're watching a quarterback in Ty Simpson who by far, not close, is the most prepared quarterback in the country. Most prepared. He's making throws like the throws that he made to Ryan Williams. The one over the middle of the field that I did think should have been targeting. The multiple on the outside of the numbers down the boundary. Absolutely insane. Joe, you're going to yell at me. Don't yell at me. NFL level throws. You know why? Because he's prepared. And nobody has been more prepared than him since that Florida State game. It does not exist. But I talked about complementary football, and you brought this up too.
Yep.
If you're going to get a rushing attack where Jam Miller goes for 136 and for the first time a running back goes over 100 yards rushing since 2023, you're going to be very difficult to beat. Do I still think that there were some things defensively for me that they got to be better on and better at? Yes. I thought Pavia, for what it's worth, played selfish-ass football. Let me give an example of why I believe that. Alexander had 4 rushes on the game, Joe. 4. Remember that guy that broke off a 65-yard run? Remember him? And scored? He would touch the ball by you handing the ball off to him 3 more times. You know why? Because they kept running pistol zone reads. And Diego Pavia was a selfish football player. I tweeted this during the game. Why are you not giving the ball when they're literally playing contain on you? It is by far the dumbest actions I've seen of a quarterback and a selfish look at me moment in critical situations. By the way, if you're the coaching staff at Vandy, I love Clark Lee. They are very, very well coached all over the place. However, how do you not let your running back who broke off a 65-yard run get 3 other touches? I love the shuffle passes. I love them.
Yeah.
But you did it twice. So if I'm looking at a guy who literally had, in 7 touches, 100 yards and 2 scores, you know what I'm probably going to do? Get him the football. And Joe, an offensive-minded head coach, I love Clark Lee, would have kept giving Alexander the football. Vandy completely got away with what had success and Alexander. There were still some things I thought were leaky, but overall, you didn't let him score in the second half, and you and I did something this past week. And we said coming into this game, if you make Diego Pavia have to beat you with his arm, he is going to wee-wee down his leg. And he did. He is a horrible thrower of the football. And you did exactly what you needed to do inside the game plan on both sides of the football. Look, I get it's Vandy. To me, that was the most complimentary that I felt like that I've seen Alabama be, Joe, in a hot minute against an opponent that doesn't suck. Like, I felt like everything that you did complimented everybody on the entire field. Last thing I'd say, did you see Ty Simpson last week after the Georgia win?
In what way?
Boy, he stood up in front of that team and sounded like a guy that used to be roaming those sidelines because that DNA is still in him. This team's dangerous, man. They're very dangerous.
I'm all in on Ty Simpson, and you said that I'd get mad at you for talking about him making NFL throws. No, I think it's the complete opposite. I couldn't agree with you more. I might actually might be more bullish on him than you are. Not only is he making these really complex layered throws, he's also improvising incredibly well. Like, he is evading pressure. He is resetting his feet with efficiency, and he's able to deliver some balls that most guys in college football, if not like 95% of them, 99% of them, can't make. I think the most impressive part about Ty Simpson, and that what makes this Alabama passing attack more dangerous than anything they've had in the past maybe 5 years, is the fact that his composure is at an elite level.
Yes.
He threw the pick early because the whole shot that he was trying to hit is something that he's converted on before, and he thought it was there, and it was a really good play by the DB. There's a lot of quarterbacks in college football that are going to react negatively to that. that are going to completely crumble and realize, oh no, that play was there and I gave up a touchdown. I'm going to overthink all of the rest of my throws. He has one of the shortest memories of a quarterback in college football.
Yeah,
and the way that he has been able to just continually elevate this team as they've desperately needed some form of elevation, it provides me with a lot of hope in projecting what Alabama does. I'm going to repeat what I said last week. It really bothered me that a lot of people said Ty Simpson stunk after the Florida State game. I thought that was way too reactionary. I thought actually watching him in that game that he proved a lot to me. He proved that even though everything wasn't working, he was the only one who was out there still fighting. And now everybody's fighting alongside him, and they are turning into one of the more unstoppable offenses to keep up with.
Well, and not only that, you asked, how do you contextualize the Florida State loss? Like this. You ready? You tweeted this, and I'm going to answer it for you. You probably knew what you were going to get with Gus Malzahn. You had no idea what you were getting from Florida State defensively. And so, listen, is that game still in them? Maybe. It's a long season. Maybe. But they're starting to find a stride. And if they found the stride in the running game, by the way, giving your left tackle touches.
Which they should keep doing.
Which, yeah, they should keep doing. Brother, I'm giving my man at least 4 carries a game.
That might actually, funny enough, that might be his best position because he's been better offensive line this year. But he's
a guard.
He's such a good athlete.
He's a guard. But
if you could imagine if he was like 290 and he was an H-back.
I mean, Joe, he's 360 now. 290's losing 70
He would
pounds.
be the first H-back ever drafted in the first round if you got him down to 290. The way that big man moves.
Before I go to Vandy.
Yep.
Joe, the way that Ty Simpson and I thought Bama moved the ball around to different playmakers. Horton got involved. Bernard got involved. We know what Ryan Williams did. They're tight ends. I just think Ty Simpson does not give a flying you-know-what about who's touching the football when he's just going to make the right play. Mm-hmm. And I feel like more than last year, it makes the receivers play harder because it's like, hey, man, I mean, he might think he needs to make this throw. And I think it's picked up Ryan Williams' game, who, by the way, Ryan's not really saying a whole lot. That's neither here nor there. But very, very impressive for what Alabama showed. Yeah. Joe, I got to go back to this, though, before we don't talk a lot about Vandy, whatever. Dog, I am livid behind this Cedric Alexander stuff. I am livid because I thought for Vandy, because they're not out of this, whether we want to, and they went toe-to-toe pretty much with Bama. So we're going to continue to talk about them.
Well, but their flaws are now exposed, and I think that beating Vanderbilt, and I don't mean to cut you off already. This is the thing that bothered the shit out of me when we talked about after the South Carolina game, how it really wasn't – it was talked up as this great win that they had against South Carolina. You beat up on Luke freaking Doty. You didn't beat Lenora Sellers, and the minute that you played a real team, you got bodied. So to what your point is, I agree with you on Alexander. Alexander is one of their best players. He's having his best season. Their run game is as good as it is because –
not get him the ball. I'll tell you, I got to be real with you. Live by the sword, die by the sword. Diego Pavia cost them a lot. And I don't like putting stuff on one player because it's not all on him. Joe, at some point, you got to take the options away from him. Meaning, hey, if he keeps pulling let me give an example. The 3rd and 2 where LT Overton makes the play, I'm pretty sure it was LT Overton. I could be wrong there. I wrote it down. Hold on one second. It was 41. No, Hill Green. When Hill Green makes the play, okay, on the 3rd and 2, when they got to go in there and get a score, Joe, you had 3 people read Diego Pavia. It was a miss. Alexander's coming on the read, and it should have been a give. And he doesn't do it. He pulls it, tries to get to the outside, and gets tackled for a loss, and they can't convert. I got to be real with you, man. Live by the sword, die by the sword. They kept going zone read. And I thought Tim Beck, The Vandy OC called it a hell of a game. A hell of a game. Blake, they scored 14 points. Joe, if they're going to, I know they said they're a championship contender. No, first off, no, you're not. But second off, your quarterback has got to make better decisions. Justin Jefferson, and trying to get to the outside on Justin Jefferson, if you're Diego Pavia, might be the dumbest thing I've ever seen a quarterback do. And I mean that. You're constantly trying to hit the edge on that guy. Joe, he had 14 tackles. At what point do you get to the fifth time where you can't outrun him? You say, maybe I should give it this time. So I don't like putting it all on one guy, but they played some selfish football offensively, and I thought the defense really played hard. I love what I'm seeing from Vandy. Don't get what I'm saying twisted. Blake, this is Vanderbilt you're getting mad about. But I love the culture that they're building. But you got to coach Pavia just like you coach everybody else. If you're gonna make those bad reads, Joe, I'm sorry. You got to be able to tell him to calm down. He tried to do a little bit too much, and he got bit for it.
Yeah, I think just very simply, Blake, I think that Vanderbilt is a good story. I think that they're fun to talk about. I think that they deserve to be recognized as a plucky 8-4 team that will be a tough out every single time that they show up. That's fine. But I think that a lot of people were getting a little carried away with themselves when there was some projection that they looked like they were one of the best teams in the SEC.
Bro, we had SEC accounts out here literally projecting them to the SEC title.
Yeah, we need to take a step back. Like we need to take a step back. And I realized that the real teams, the Alabamas, the Georgias,
the A&Ms at this point,
the A&Ms, the Tennessees, those are the real threats.
I agree. By the way, they ran for 7 yards a carry. That's what makes me mad. Stop going away from your game plan. That's so dumb.
Yeah.
God, that's the kind of Joe, I'm sorry. It's a pet peeve. How does a guy break off that big of a run and you not give it to him again? Sorry. Stupid. All right. Joe, the biggest talking point of the night. Well. UCLA. Jerry Newhouse and the boys upset Penn State. The one that you and I called both, Joe, in the beginning of the week. Wait a minute. No, we didn't. I can't believe this. UCLA clips Penn State. What makes you of it?
I don't even really. Dude, I really have no idea how to talk about this game because it was one of those ones where you were tagging me and I was like, oh, cool. Nico's playing well. I didn't even have it on the screen when I was watching the early or it was the midday slate that this.
Yeah, the midday slate, the 2:30 slate. Yeah.
Blake, they lost this game because they came out and completely overlooked UCLA, which is 100% on James Franklin. And I got something that we're going to talk about a little later with him on if this is even redeemable. But they were so disjointed. There were unblocked defenders on a number of their key important plays, bad fumbles. They finally woke up in the third quarter when it was way too late. The decision-making and the play calling by Andy Kotelnicki made absolutely no sense. Right before the half, they were not showing urgency when they could have scored points. They also had an issue with just overall intensity when they needed it. Blake, a head coach's responsibility is to understand how to effectively put together a coaching staff, a roster that works hand in hand. And I look at this team, I see an offensive coordinator that has a quarterback that he doesn't know how to coach, that doesn't understand the situational awareness, and then a defensive coordinator that can't get his guys to lock in despite having an incredibly talented group. There's only one guy we really need to focus our energy on, and it's James Franklin. This has come to its head. There is no way through for James Franklin. This is not a Marcus Freeman loses to NIU type situation. He is way too deep into his career. Way too deep into his career for something like the worst team in Power 4. One of the worst teams in college football. This is a joke. Absolute joke.
All right, I got to talk about UCLA first. Sorry, I'll get to Penn State, but Joe, when Nico Iamaleava went to Tennessee, this is what people thought they were going to get from him. 17 of 24, 166, 2 touchdowns, 16 carries, 128 yards, and 3 scores. Quite frankly, that is what a 5-star quarterback looks like when he's running away from DBs. I felt like I saw a quarterback that loved what a guy was calling for him. By the way, speaking of that, Jerry Neuheisel is so new to play calling that there were plays where he had his microphone up and forgot to push the green button and didn't get the plays in, which he confirmed along with Nico at the end of the game. You had a guy, if you're Penn State, that had 2 days to prepare for you, a quarterback on critical downs who legitimately had to do and call his own plays because his coach, who is so new to this, didn't know what to do and forgot that he didn't have his microphone down, didn't realize he wasn't hitting the green button, and they ran all over you. They literally ran all over you. Joe, what part do you just say that we're going to keep a spy or contain on Nico Iamaleava? What took you so long if you're Jim Knowles? You got out-coached. You're the highest paid defensive coordinator in the country, and you got out-coached by Jerry Neuheisel. How else do you categorize it? I got to give Nico a lot of credit, though, Joe. He said, look, Nico Iamaleava has taken a lot of criticism on this show too, and deservedly so for a lot of it. Dude, that was some special shit. That was special. That dude did some things that not normal human beings can do. And you can say Penn State came out flat, yes, but so did their coaches. Like the beginning of the game, I thought Nico Iamaleava's first drive when they go up 7-0 was not only beautiful, but then the coaching staff to go for an onside kick and then get it. And then if you're James Franklin, how long have you been in coaching? This coaching staff is brand new. You don't think they wanted to come out and make a statement and that was something that they could do? I got to give UCLA a lot of credit, Joe. A lot of credit. They played harder than Penn State did. And they came out guns blazing, throwing punches all over the place. I just got to give them credit for what they did. They played very hard. They were not the better team. They're not the better team. But James Franklin last week lost to Oregon, and the question was that a turning point for them? And Joey, it kind of does. How do you allow Nico Iamaleava to do what he continued to do on you and not change things up? How does that even happen?
I mean, that's the unbelievable question, is that Nico in this UCLA offense was dead. It was immovable. It wasn't doing anything. And now all of a sudden, Neuheisel has this amazing game that he calls, and Nico's playing the freest that he's looked. And I give a lot of credit to Nico, by the way. That was the best performance that I've seen from him in the past, when he's been incredibly timid. He's looked incredibly soft. He didn't look like he really wanted to be out there at times. And I felt that he put his body on the line. I thought he completely fought as hard as he could to help produce that victory. Here's my big thing, Blake, with Franklin. If you can't win this game after losing to Oregon, which we provided our criticism to him for not being able to win top 10 games, to then show up this flat.
Skipper's got the same amount that he is. I saw that stat today. He's got the same amount of top 10 wins as James Franklin.
To have turned around and produced this is proof that he has hit his ceiling. He had stated that he believed he had one of his, or if not his, most complete team at Penn State. And they fell this short. Like, I think that they need to come to some sort of mutual parting of ways, some mutual agreement of parting of ways, because there is no way that he will ever get this team to a national championship. There's not. And if I'm James Franklin and I have any aspiration to eventually find success, I would want to see if I can do it in a different environment. Because I think that it gets to a certain point with some coaches that they can't win at a certain school. What's the point of staying? Getting a change of go ahead. What were you gonna say?
You mean like Brian Kelly?
Well, although he hasn't exactly worked out so much yet. But my whole point here, Blake, is that like
to your point,
you're somewhere for long enough. Go somewhere different.
They've been together the same years, the same place, 11 years. I mean, I'm kind of trolling you, joking you, but I'm kind of not. The time for BK at Notre Dame had ran its course. Time for James Franklin's kind of ran its course. Joe, they didn't respond to him. They did not. Joe, you know how I know that this is a you problem? Last year's team going to USC, and then this year's team going to UCLA. And you almost got clipped by USC, and then you did get clipped by UCLA. You weren't ready. You weren't prepared. You were the most unprepared team in the country yesterday, it felt like. By the way, how is Drew Allar your leading rusher? How do you allow UCLA to run for 280 on you and go 10 of 16 on third down? Joe, it's more than just him. It's on his entire coaching staff. It's on Jim Knowles, who you made the highest paid guy in the country from a coordinator perspective. Joe, I feel like I'm seeing a team that all offseason read their news clippings. And what I mean by that is I don't know if they got really prepared. They had all the hype, and then it all came crashing down. Joe, this is the first time that you're seeing a team with this less coming into the season of question marks that has now more question marks than anybody. And they do. I still got to give Jerry Neuheisel and this staff for UCLA a lot of credit. But it just comes down to a point in time where I don't know that anybody knows what they're doing. Joe, they're 0-2 against the Big Ten. They're 0-2. You're halfway through the season, and you don't have a win against a Power 4 opponent. You're halfway through the season, Joe, and you don't have a win against a Power 4 opponent. We never thought that would be the case coming in for Penn State. I see a lot of people, for what it's worth, blaming Drew Allar in this game. Was he great? No. He didn't lose. He didn't give up 42 points. And how is he I'm going to say it again. How is he your leading rusher? How? I mean, like, it's blasphemous to say that he gave up, like, he lost you the game. You gave up 42 points on the road to a team that barely could get past the 50-yard line against UNLV. Like, I'm sorry, Joe. I don't know what else to say. I just don't.
It's hit its ceiling. It's time for James Franklin to go somewhere else. And I don't know how that happens. He's got a $50 million buyout. I don't think that he would willingly give that up unless somebody aggressive came along and said they were going to give him more money and there was some sort of way to orchestrate.
Who would do that?
Arkansas. You don't think Arkansas wouldn't gladly hire James Franklin? I don't know about that, man. You don't think that they wouldn't?
No, I don't think that they would.
He won in the SEC before.
They would not do that. They would give it to Bobby Petrino before they would hire James Franklin.
Why do you okay, I think I understand why. But I
mean, I'm not going to say
I understand. Maybe what about Florida? Florida, I'm sure would consider
Philly's still winning, and you're still trying to fire him, Joe.
I'm just saying that
Philly just beat a top 10 team, and you want him fired.
LSU, as you just mentioned there, gave a huge contract to Brian Kelly after he had been successful at Notre Dame, but never was able to fully get the job done for the Fighting Irish. And they offered him a huge contract based off of what they thought he could do. USC did the same exact thing with Lincoln Riley. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I don't know who that opening is.
That's not Arkansas. Those two places are not Arkansas.
I don't know how much money Virginia Tech has, but
Arkansas is just not the fit. You need to use another team because it's not. Because James would be an idiot to not retire. because he's going to go out there and lose. They're not going to give him money. They're not going to give him NIL. It's a bad fit. He can go somewhere else. But I mean, Joe, here's the thing that nobody wants to talk about. They're not technically out of this. I mean,
they're not going to the playoff.
Well, they're not technically out of it.
Let's be realistic. Okay, so they've got Indiana and Ohio State. They get Indiana at home, which is a winnable game for them, but they're not beating Ohio State. A 3-loss Penn State team
are either. It's not getting in.
Yeah, no.
You're staring down barrel of a gun. This is awful for them. And I don't know. They kind of feel a little stuck here. We'll see. All right. Joe, another upset. This one maybe not as crazy, but another upset. This one coming in the SEC. Maybe to some not an upset, but who knows? Florida takes down number 9 Texas. Billy Napier keeps his job another week. We're going to keep saying it. But Florida upsets Texas. Your thoughts?
I have 2 things with this Texas team. One, I know that we just talked about how Penn State's done. I don't think the same is with Texas. And I want to compare them to a team last year that got to the college football playoff that had a lot of similarities. Tennessee last year had a starting quarterback that everybody hyped up to be a Heisman Trophy finalist, and everybody was expecting great things from him. And then as he started to play hard teams on his schedule, he struggled. And they finished with 2 losses when they lost to Georgia, and they suffered the insanely ridiculous loss that they suffered to Arkansas. Inexplicable. They still finished the season strong enough and with a good enough of a record to get to the college football playoff. I'm merely saying that to say that just because Arch isn't playing well, just because this team has not played well to this point and they suffered this loss, does not mean that they're out of the mix. Does that require them to completely run the table on their stretch of games remaining? Yes. Yes, absolutely. And that's going to be a difficult task. The other thing I have to bring up, Blake, I think it's in Arch's best interest if he transfers at the end of the season, if he doesn't start to play better. His issues have nothing to do with his talent. It has nothing to do with his football IQ. It has nothing to do with his instincts. It has everything to do with watching a kid who looks freaked out, who looks overwhelmed, and who looks like everything is way too much for him. Blake, I really think that this issue for him is only going to get resolved if he goes somewhere where there's less pressure on his shoulders. And I think that Arch Manning ending up transferring to a program that is much less focused on than Texas is going to be the best path for him playing more freely and playing better. I am not calling
Manning go where he doesn't have spotlight.
He's still going to, well, it's just like Nico still had eyes on him when he got to UCLA. And that's a tough question to ask. I don't know off the top of my head, but Texas and Arch Manning combined created the gigantic media storm that it is.
All right. Well, let me just say this first. The more talented team to me won yesterday.
I don't think that Texas is less talented than Florida.
To me, I saw an offensive line against what we thought was the best in front 7 in the country in the first half, pick them up and push them around. Florida fans are probably pissed right now because Jaden Ball finally got over 20 touches, and they won. They won. They've been screaming for him to do that. He had 27 carries, by the way. And in that, they physically dominated a Texas team up front, Joe. This isn't like, oh, well, they were tired or they were out of this. They pushed them around in the first half, and Jaden Ball went off. Went completely off. Now, did they run it the way that I think that they wanted to, or did Texas do very bad? No, not really, I guess. They didn't do very bad, but they gave up 159 rushing yards, and Jaden Ball had over 100 of them. And Duke Clark on both of those tosses had some really tough yardage, and they took it right to Texas. Joe, I saw at DB versus Florida wide receivers, I saw what 2 highly talented and 5-star receivers look like. Texas, you had a pair. That's not what yours looked like. Dallas Wilson and Vernon Brown, by far, were the best receivers on the field yesterday, to me. I don't think Ryan Wingo's out the top 3, but those two guys. And by the way, the first game of the season and of his career for Dallas Wilson, who had 6 catches, 111 yards, and 2 touchdowns, and the freakish one that he made along the sideline on a beautiful throw by Lagway, who we talked about going into this game, what quarterback is going to be back or find themselves back? It was DJ. The interception he had was because his arm got hit and the ball fluttered. He didn't make wrong decisions. He was pretty damn exceptional all day. Joe, to me, the more talented team won in this one. And I can't believe I'm saying this. Texas got pushed around by that experienced offensive line who finally showed up. Well, Blake, they only ran for 4.3 yards per carry. Yeah, that team is still very good. But when they needed to run and needed to put things away, Joe, they did. In reference to Arch Manning, I'll say this. The opposite happened for him. The opposite. How in the Rudy Poo hell does your running backs combined have 10 rushes? A quarterback that is struggling, literally, does not have protection at all. You're not even attempting to run the football. And then, Joe, when we saw Quinn Ewers last year, where was the great play calling by Sark to give Arch some action on some bubble screens and do some extensions of the run? 10 touches for the Texas running backs. I got to call it like I see it. I think Sark got outcoached by Napier. Napier had the better game plan offensively than Sark did because he's not putting Arch in favorable positions at all. Joe, he's a young quarterback that's on the road and struggling. And what do? You make him drop back every play. In the second half, almost literally, the only run that you had on one of the scoring drives was the Wisner touchdown. Joe, Sark is not only is Arch looking off, I got to be real with you. I think from a play calling standpoint, Sark looks off. And you can't say that because he's one of the best play callers in the game. You're not doing anything to help him either.
So, okay, part of me with that, Sark does obviously deserve to be criticized because this offense is not played to its level, and he's supposed to be this brilliant offensive play caller. But at the same time, this is also part of the reason why I don't think that Arch fits in at Texas. If this marriage between Sarkisian, who has activated a lot of really impactful, talented quarterbacks, and a quarterback with the skill set that Arch Manning has, if that's not working, then it's not going to just suddenly find itself. It's not going to suddenly fix itself. I agree with you, though. For some reason, he keeps getting away from running the ball. And one of the things, there's this one clip of him at a coaching clinic talking about how it's always been an emphasis for him to have 1,000-yard rusher at Texas.
He's not going to come close. He's not going to remotely come close.
To have Cedric Baxter back and to not even be turning to him is very concerning. I will say, for Florida's sake, is he?
Mm-hmm.
I don't even register that. It goes to show how messed up the running back situation is. My point, though, what I was going to say.
I mean, look, some of this is why I'm giving Arch a pass. Because literally in offseason, I said, listen, you can anoint him.
Yeah, but hold on. The sacks that he took were
Joe, okay, then show me on film where he's not got guys completely covered in there being separation. Because I'm going to tell you, I watched the whole game.
Okay, I get that, but at the same time, he took 6 sacks, and a lot of those sacks were him just holding the ball really long. If there's nobody open, run. He's a good athlete. Like, why is he not getting out of it? There were a lot of self-inflicted sacks that he took.
I don't disagree with that, but this is the call that he's got coming in. I mean, with all due respect, he's not the one calling in shots for Arch Manning. Sark is, with a bad offensive line. He's making them, I mean, the 3 times I remember in the second half that he got sacked, Joe, one of them was on a 3rd and 2, and there was nothing underneath that was called for him. There is no check down. He's trying to throw the ball deep. I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't understand what Sark's doing. is it fair to blame Arch on some of this? Yes, the 2 interceptions clearly threw in a double cover.
The blame goes on both of them. I think that it's even.
But Arch is exactly. Arch is wearing the blame of what I think overall is a problem. They're not playing well anywhere on the offense. Receiver, quarterback, offensive line, run game. All of it has been bad. What might be still a really damn good defense. Joe, I got to turn to the other side here before we move on to the last game. Florida's just a good team. Florida's a good team, man. And
but what does that even mean with Billy Napier and the mistakes that they have?
Don't know.
He even almost sold the game and
I like Billy Napier. Game, yes.
I like Billy Napier more than most people. And I think that
says the guy I followed on Twitter, not Billy Napier.
Shut up. No, but seriously though, like I like him more than most because he's very clearly got a team that supports him and that is going to rally around him. And this team played like they were supposed to at the beginning of the year. And if they played like this and they had Dallas Wilson to start the year, who knows how we'd be talking about them. But the problem is they're too far gone.
No, hold on. When I say they're a good team, I'm not coming in here saying they're making the playoff or anything. But you look at Joe, you talked about earlier with Vandy. You said, oh, this is a good 8-4 team that everybody thinks it's scrappy. Newsflash, that team's actually Florida. Joe, there are not a lot of teams in the country that want to see Florida on their schedule right now. Now, I'm not saying you're not going to beat them and that Billy's not going to get in his own way. That's not what I'm saying at all. They got dudes. I
think you're being like a little too. We can't be sitting here hyping up this Florida team after how bad they started the season.
No. Is Dallas Wilson the 5-star and Vernell Brown not dudes? Is DJ Lagway not a guy that we thought was going to be a dude?
Hold
on. Do they not have multiple draft picks along their offense and defensive line? And I got to be real with you. Vandy ain't got none of that. Vandy does not have those athletes.
Okay, but we're not talking about Vanderbilt, though. The point is, though, Blake, is that that's all nice, and that was all what we projected at the beginning of the year. But are we just going to immediately buy into this team after one game? They've been so inconsistent.
If you listen to anything that I've said over the entire season with them, has been Billy screwing up, and he's constantly screwing up, and he's going to cost himself his own job. When you turn on the film, they got NFL dudes all over the place. And that's indicative on Billy. But it does not change the fact that they got dudes, like high-level dudes. So take that whatever you will. However, Dallas Wilson's going to be one of the best receivers in the country along with Vernell Brown.
Sure.
Vernon Brown.
I don't disagree with that. I think there's a lot of rosters that have dudes on them that don't play well.
They also don't have Billy Napier as their head coach either. Like, let me ask you this. What would Lane do with those dudes? You would come in here tonight.
Lose to Kentucky.
Nah, he didn't have them dudes like that offensively.
Last year,
literally his top 2 receivers got hurt out for the year. He didn't have them. He didn't have those level of dudes.
Okay, yeah, Trey Harris was banged up against Kentucky, which I'll give.
No, I mean he missed the remainder of the year.
But against one game. But against Kentucky, though, is what I was referring to. I don't know. Regardless, I have no idea what's going to happen with this coaching situation. I have no idea what's going to happen with Florida.
Okay. Last but not least, Texas A&M rolls over Mississippi State. I thought the Bulldogs, for what it's worth, fought really hard in this one, but the coming out party for another 5-star, Reuben Owens dominated in this one, and A&M rolls. Your thoughts on A&M and Mississippi State?
Look, I said this going into this game, Blake. A&M was really starting to impress me. I really think that this A&M squad has rebounded quite a bit from the defensive issues that they showed against Notre Dame and even in their game against UTSA to start the season. I think that this Texas A&M squad, we are reminded first and foremost the ridiculous speed that they have at every single position on offense, at running back, at quarterback with Marcel Reed, with Craver, Concepcion. There's just so much. But Blake, the biggest part about all of this is that they were able to bottle up a Mississippi State offense that was one of the best rushing attacks in the country to 77 yards on the ground. I mean, we could go as deep as we want with this game, Blake, but like, holy shit, they completely took Bothwell and Devon Booth out of the game. 60 yards was the most that Bothwell had in this game. Like, I just think that this defensive performance, just like we talked about with Alabama, this is a team that's getting better every single week, and the teams that get better need to be the ones that we buy into.
They look really good. I mean, they had 2 sacks on their opening drive. Did Levy get away from the run game way too quickly? Yes. Doesn't stop how good of a performance you had defensively. Joe Casey Concepcion, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. He's the most dangerous wide receiver in the country. The punt return was ridiculous. Both touchdowns are ridiculous. Marcel Reed, does he have to be better in the pass game? Sometimes, yes. He still has way too many things he's missing. But, Joe, name something offensively that they can't do. Name something offensively that they just cannot do. I don't, even though the last 2 games were not massive scoring outputs, I think Marcel Reed battled through some things, throwing the football, even going back to Notre Dame when he's below 50%, any of that. He's even getting better. I don't know what you try to take away from them. Because if you try to man them up on the outside, they'll do what they did last night in Casey Concepcion and Marvio Craver. And just when you don't guard Terry Bussey, they're all there. Then when you start creeping up, or when you start creeping back, and you start playing more coverage and going more zone, Ruben Owens goes off. And if he's not having a great night, here comes Le'Veon Moss. I'm going to say something that's going to piss a lot of people off. They remind me a little bit sometimes of an old school Bama to some extent offensively. Not as
you're going to piss the people off with that one.
I understand that. But early school, like early 2010s, on how Nick did things. Speed, run game, quarterback that manages the game and is athletic. Highly athletic. And that's how they're doing things. They just got so much speed that's unguardable sometimes. And they're gonna be in every single game because of them. There's not a game that A&M, and there's not a team in the country A&M can't beat right now because of what the explosiveness that they have offensively and the way that they run the ball. I know defensively they still have some issues. They're still going through some things, whatever. But the last 2 weeks, they've been highly impressive. And, Joe, you got to throw them in there with one of the top 5 teams in the country because they're playing like it right now.
Yeah, and that's been one of my misses in the power rankings that I haven't really...
I had them at 5. I know we had a conversation about them, but to be real with you, during the power rankings segment, that's why I asked you.
Yeah, and I don't know if I'd stick them at 5 still. I mean, here's the thing though, because Blake, to be very, the Notre Dame win that they have is a very good win, but to be just like slightly hesitant, they don't have a ranked on ranked matchup until they play LSU, and no shade on LSU. There's a chance that LSU could possibly be ranked in the back end of the top 25 when they play them. Their first legit, and this plays favorably for Texas A&M, by the way. This is not really me digging at Texas A&M. They have one of the least challenging SEC schedules, which is to their favor. Their real hardest games don't come until November against Missouri and then in the final week against Texas. And Texas is incredibly beatable at the current moment. South Carolina is not even ranked right now.
LSU is much tougher than Texas right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I'm just saying, Blake, I'm in agreement with you. Everything that they've done is really impressive, and I'm bought in, and I like how they've adjusted and they've improved. And I think that Ruben Owens playing as well as he did is insane because I've always really liked him as a player. Him being able to be that dangerous is promising. I don't know what game is the real game that I can really say that's the one. Because the Notre Dame game was solid, but you're catching that Notre Dame team in the second game of a new coordinator and a new quarterback who's never played before.
I mean, you could say you're catching a whole new wide receiver core in their second game, and they put 41 on you.
That's fair.
I mean, like that would be my counter argument to it against that DB room. I mean, like, so I get what you're saying, but there's not a lot of things off. Marcel Reed has, for them to go where they want to go, he's got to be more accurate. Bottom line. You go below 50% against some of these other teams that you have to play, and you're gonna say, how in the hell did we get here? A&M fans are going to be mad and scream and kick and yell, and well, they do that already, and they do that at midnight on Fridays or Saturdays. But I'm just telling you, if he continues to play better, Joe, there's just not anything offensively that they can't do on you. There really isn't. You want to power this run game up, they're going to do it. You don't want to contain Marcel Reed. And every time you put somebody down, I mean, to be honest with you, Colin Klein's probably one of the – we don't talk about him like this, but he's dialing some shit up. Walk up in the box. Notre Dame did this in the second half when they kind of started trying to run the football a little bit more, and then Mississippi State did it last night. See ya.
Well, also, very plainly, they're one of the most uniquely built teams in college football. And that's what it makes them dangerous is the way that they can operate in a lot of the things that they do.
Good team, man. They got some guys. Yeah. So we'll see. All right.
We had a couple.
So before we get out of here, we got some super chats. Penn Jones says, how far off do you think we are from teams starting to find players for penalties like the NFL? I think pretty far because you'd have to do a collective bargaining agreement.
Yeah, we're ways away from that.
Yeah, we're ways from that. U-Town says, just catching up. Thomas, number 8, was the safety, not Poyser on the strip.
Well, okay. But they both were. That specific play. Yeah, they both still played really well.
He was second on your team in tackles. He had 8.
Yeah,
but yes, to your point, yes. Elks says UCLA interim head coach Tim Skipper is now tied with James Franklin with 1 career win versus a top 10 team in the Big Ten. Told y'all Knowles year 1 gives up yards. He gives up more than yards. He gives up points.
No,
I'm still stunned by that. I cannot believe that they got beat by them. That is insane.
This is my point. It's the most ridiculous. This is one of the most embarrassing losses that has happened in the history of college football.
Is this worse than Notre Dame losing to Northern Illinois?
Yes, because Northern Illinois was a competitive MAC team. They fired Sunseri in the middle of the week. The guy called the plays. You said it didn't even know how to use the headset. Neuheisel's awesome. I bet he's going to go on and become someone's OC and kill it next year.
Sorority Rose in trouble this week, buddy.
Right, man.
That's all I'm saying. Listen,
I think he's got a wife.
she better put a leash on him. He's the new Cliff Kingsbury.
The UCLA sororities are not like the Southern sororities. They're not as.
He is the new Cliff Kingsbury.
Okay,
he is. Penn Jones, by the way, did you hear Theo Vaughn saying that he did plant medicine with
yes.
Dwayne?
Dude, his picks were terrible. He was out of it. Something was off with him. He's like worse than usual. Yeah. Until
get off Arches, you know what? The guy is not that good and always overrated due to his name.
Like why can't I give a kid who's in his 5th game a chance to get better? Like what the shit?
No, I completely agree. But that's what I was saying in like the preseason. Like, look, man, I say y'all. When Joel Klatt, as an example, or whoever called Paul Feinbaum calling the best quarterback since Tim Tebow. All right. Then you just confirmed that you didn't watch the ULM game. There's no.
I think wait. I think it's less about that. I think it's more to just do that. People were too eager to find something
way too
captivating to latch on.
Way too.
I was one of those people.
Well, he was a name. He got clicks. Everybody wanted him to work.
Yeah.
They forget what his uncles look like in year 1.
Right.
Dog water. Marshall says, as a side note, why is Lebby such an idiot for playing fluff down 20-plus points with 4 minutes left in the game? Now Starbeck is likely out for some time.
I mean, you're trying to get back into the game, and it looked like the timing of it's obviously not great, but like you can't approach a game where you're down multiple scores is like,
yeah, I agree. Does it stink for them? Yes. Are they much better? Yes. There's a long future with Levy. I mean, they play so hard for him, man. But I mean, they run the ball really hard, and we'll see with them. He also says Joe hates Ohio State and Texas A&M.
This is just like you with Miami. Just because I don't have every team as number one. You know what I might do out of spite? My power rankings might just be 1, 1, 1, 1. Like it's just gonna be they're all tied for first in the top 12, so that nobody yells at me anymore.
Hold on. You can't do that because I've been taking shit from Miami for 4 weeks now.
I know. I'm obviously not gonna do that. But guys, just because I don't Ohio State's been awesome. I get it. Like I'm in on Ohio State. I'm in on Texas A&M, but Oregon has one of the best wins in the season, and I get it that it's got no less shine on it from after Penn State losing, but they've also smoked everyone they've played, and Miami has the best resume and has looked dominant through that resume.
I'm going to remember that come power ranking time when you're yelling at me about resumes.
Yeah, well.
Just saying.
Sure.
See y'all tomorrow. Peace.